Hi, thank you for tuning into the Florida Healthcare Law Firm. My name is Carlos Arce. I'm one of the partners here at the firm. I'm here with one of our newest lawyers, Adam Lusthaus, and we're going to be talking about healthcare deals and trends in the healthcare space, affecting private equity, seller side and buyer side. Hope you're ready for this. It's going to be a good one.
Hi, thanks for the introduction, Carlos. I'm Adam Lusthaus. I've been in the business transaction space as a lawyer for over 15 years, handling a lot of deals, primarily focused in the private sector space, healthcare, and a bunch of other industries. I think it's about to be a very interesting and exciting time in the transaction space, especially with the announcements coming today on the interest rate lowering for the Fed.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam. Thank you for that. So like Adam mentioned, he's been in the healthcare M&A space and M&A in general for many years. He was in big law for some years. So our advisement here at the firm consists of a boutique feel, but with that big law experience. And our lawyers are skilled in that area. We have a good deal team behind us. Jeff Cohen, our founder, has been practicing for over 35 years in the space. He's seen from when deals were corps to now as things have transitioned to LLCs being the norm and everything in between. We wanted to talk a little bit about the transactions that we've seen in the last year, and it was an active year. It's been an active year because a lot of private equity companies had to spend the money that they had gotten right around 2019 and 2020. So once COVID-19 hit, a lot of those private equity actors had withheld their money and wanted to understand what would happen to the deal world. And a lot of spending wasn't being done. So private equity kind of hoarded the money. So what we've seen is uptick in trends in transactions, right, and EBITDAs are kind of stabilizing. They were kind of fluctuating for a little bit, but you want to talk a little bit about that, Adam, what you've seen?
Right. I've seen a lot of people like waiting on the sidelines. The buzzword that I've heard from private equity and other investors and lawyers out there is there's a lot of dry powder out there. There's a lot of people ready to go. There's been a lot of, there's kind of been like a hurry up and wait mentality in a lot of deals. People starting to check the tires so that they're ready to go. Mm-hmm. I think a lot is kind of weighing on the overall economic picture. You know, the Fed is expected to lower rates today as we're talking. Yeah. And I think that's going to open up a lot of deal flow. I think, like I said, a lot of people are waiting on the sidelines, waiting for a little bit of certainty. What businesses hate is uncertainty. So the more they can follow with their plan and their models, the better, you know. So I think that we're about to jump on a period of enhanced activity, kind of like we were at a few years ago. Right. So I think it's a great time to start talking about the specific, the specific points that any sort of private equity buyer or any sort of practice or business seller wants to be mindful of to position themselves for the most the most successful transaction, you know, whether they're looking to buy or sell, and some of the specific areas they want to really look at, both to maximize value and efficiency of these deals.
Right. And I wanted to talk, that's a good segue into what I really wanted to talk about is like things you can do to prepare. If you're a seller, if you're a prospective seller, like you're a medical practice or you're just any kind of business and you're looking to sell, what are a few of the things that you should be thinking about right now, pre-deal? A lot of the things that we like to solidify is getting your revenue right, figuring out are the books looking good? Is the accounting of the practice looking good or the business looking good? Have you consulted with a financial advisor, whether that be a corporate tax attorney or a CPA or a skilled firm that can help you essentially maximize your valuation by having your books right? A lot of what goes into that preliminary due diligence that is done before the LOI stage, the letter of intent stage, which is when a deal truly begins, when it's serious, it's the intention of it, begins in those initial financials. So there's an NDA that usually will go around. You'll send over your P&Ls, you'll send over your books to the buyer, and then they'll make an evaluation. And on that preliminary, they'll make that initial offer.
Right. And so I cannot stress enough, the importance of having your house in order. By that, what do I mean? Making sure that your company, the structure, the organization, the internal agreements, the external agreements are buttoned up. Because I've spent countless hours of my life going through online data rooms for these many transactions, and and just seeing a whole host of things in different stages of readiness and sophistication. So first, I mean, I've seen companies lose, millions of dollars in enterprise value just by not having basic housekeeping items checked off. I mean, it seems simple, but, not having the right structure, the right formation, the right structuring of their entities, the documentation can lead to tons of money being left on the table. And like you said before, these, especially private equity buyers, are sharp. They're going to come in and do, oftentimes it's known as a quality of earnings report. So they're going to tear through the financials. So if you don't have them in order, you're going to have to scramble and pay somebody a lot of money to go and create and recreate and organize the stuff. So if you're, even, contemplating a sale, it's important to go take the steps now to make sure that if and when you're ready to do that, it's as efficient and streamlined as possible.
Yeah, to that point, what I've seen a lot, where I've seen my clients maximize value before a deal, has been when they do a valuation preliminarily before they even engage into conversations. Because then you come in knowing what your value is, and you now know what the real deal is. Because you may not know, you may not think that your value should be higher, and you may be getting an offer, and you may think, hell, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to me because it's not what I make, let's say, in a year, because on EBITDA, it's basically on multiple. So the amount is always going to be more than what you truly make in that year, usually. And you'll be fascinated to know basically what your company may be worth based on the trends and based on what private equity is doing. And to talk about that, like private equity, what I've been seeing them doing now as it relates to the buy spread is they're looking for consistency in payment. There's been a lot of issues with like payer arrangements and like underpayment and issues regarding lack of payment. And private equity is not willing to take that risk anymore. They're looking to invest into products and things that have full certainty, things that have a good revenue cycle, things that show consistency, 2-year periods of consistency. And it's funny because what we've seen an uptick is in the cash space. So the wellness space, the multiples in the wellness space are wild, 10x multiples in the IV hydration and med spa space. And
exactly. It goes back to predictability, right? That's what they are looking for. Predictability. If they're going to deploy their investors' capital, which all private equity do, they have a responsibility. Forget the marketing and the egos that might be at play. They have a responsibility to do what's best with the capital. So if there's not that air of predictability, they're going to be very gun shy. And even if they do commit on something they're not as, that's not as certain, you're gonna lose on the valuation. They're going to take it somewhere. So exactly right on the cash space, on the cash and the wellness side of the business. I mean, there's much more predictable when you have patients paying the cash up front as opposed to waiting for payers to come and pay down the road. So again, predictability, certainty of the revenue is 100% what need to be focused on.
Yeah, when I have clients that come to me and they're in like insurance-based practices and they're saying, I want to add cash into my business. A lawyer does, how they don't know what they're talking about? When they don't give you these two options. Do you want to do an a la carte model or do you want to do a membership model? Because there's a difference. Membership model, back to that predictability that Adam was talking about, membership model means you're getting paid on a capitation monthly basis for services that you're going to be rendering to the patient on a prearranged agreement. A la carte is just, you come into a place and you say, you know what, I want some Botox today, I want some fillers today, and I'm going to come back whenever I want. You're going to have that predictability and certainty when you go down a membership model. Right. And that's where that legal investment that you need to make to get that contract out, that's where that comes out tenfold.
They love the recurring revenue.
Right. So
across all sectors, all businesses. So I'm sure I've seen this too, a move towards this recurring revenue model in the healthcare space. What does that mean? I mean, show some examples
so recurring model. So for many years, the trend was in the late 2000s, there was like capitation payments in the primary care world. So capitation meant basically that these third-party administrators, these Medicare Advantage players, were paying these primary care doctors prefixed set amounts to treat patients. So they'd pay them, let's say, a preset amount per member per month for that patient, or a preset amount of percentage of Medicare allowable. And what that did was it created predictability in the revenue cycles of that practice. What we have seen since then is there has been audits and triggering by the DOJ on Medicare Advantage providers and Medicare Advantage payers because of the abuse of surplus and MRA gaming and things of that nature, which we won't talk about that much in this deal because this isn't a fraud and abuse podcast. This is more of a deal trend. But what that did was it created an imbalance because private equity companies overvalued things and they thought, well, this is forever. This money is going to be happening forever. They kind of made those representations to their money investors. Right. And now we've seen that once the government gets involved and they're freezing assets, your investment is frozen as well. So the good thing about the cash base is regulation is slim right now in that space. But of course, like everything, when things get notoriety, you're going to see an uptick on trend, and then you're going to see government enforcement.
Right. So again, cannot underscore this enough, the importance of your particular business. Yeah. Making sure you're on the right compliant structure. You have all the documents, you have all the registrations and licensure, and you have somebody like Carlos or myself helping you every stage of the way. You know?
Yeah, and Adam, just to go granular, because I think that this is just an overthought. It's like, why did you form your company or your corp the way you formed it? Did you run that by a tax advisor? Did you run that by a business lawyer? Because you'd be shocked how many people just decide they're going to get a corp or an Inc., but they don't understand the liability and implications that they have as a shareholder or a partner of that company versus like, why didn't you go through an LLC? Why didn't you do an LLC? You know, I saw recently a client came in and they structured all their entity. They did a holding company model and they had like a sub-holding right under it and they had multiple sub-entities and they were all C Corps. And we were this was Jeff and I, and we were wondering like, why would you have done a C Corp? Like, where did you get advised that? C Corps traditionally are for things that are going to go public because of the availability of, being able to buy common shares and going public. C Corps aren't really used. And we see people that they do S Corp elections, not knowing what that really means. But, most CPAs advise that because of tax benefits. But they don't understand that, for example, like an entity can't own an interest in an S Corp. Right. The biggest one we see, we must talk about that. Every 5 to 10 days, 5 to 10 times a week.
Right.
That issue.
No, again, and it's about life cycle of a company. People come in and what your needs. That's the only constant in life is change.
Yep.
So when you come in and you start a business, you do the best you can with the available information and predictions you have. Things change, constantly evolve. I'm sure you have clients. I have clients that view our representation as like a one-off, a drive-by, as I've heard people use it in this, in this office. But really, it's an ever-growing kind of relationship. Things need to be constantly looked at, revised, reviewed. Yeah. I can't tell you, how it kind of bugs me when a client comes to me 5 years later after setting them up and doing this, and they're looking to sell or they're looking to something else, and I'm like, man, I wish you had come. I wish you had reached out even a year ago. There's so much I could do to help you maximize or get ready for the next phase of your business and your business's life cycle. It's a constant everything that you have to be on top of. But again, it's like most things in life, right? If you spend a little bit on maintenance throughout the journey, you don't get hit with those enormous bills at the end. Like if you get your AC serviced every year, you're probably not going to get hit with, having to replace it like every 2 years without doing it. It's similar to running a business and structuring and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, key things that I see as oversight is, lack of formation documents, no operating agreement, no shareholder agreement. Right. Employment contracts. I can't stress enough how many people shortcut that because they think, well, I don't want to spend on legal. I don't want to hire a lawyer to draw up a contract for me. Or maybe they get the wrong contract because they went to the wrong lawyer, because that's the other thing. If a lawyer is, if you're asking a lawyer for an employment agreement and they're just saying, okay, here it is and it's going to be X dollars, that's not the right lawyer. They're not asking about why did you need that agreement? What's the purpose behind this? Is this the proper arrangement? Should that person be a contractor or should they be an employee? Right. Are they telling you the difference? Are they telling you why an employee versus an independent contractor? Right. Are they talking about non-competes? Are they talking about non-solicitations? Are they talking about confidentiality clauses? See, those things enhance values of businesses, because if I'm a buyer and I'm looking at a business, I'm only going to buy a business when you have structure, when you have those documents in place, because now I know, okay, it goes back to the revenue and it goes back to the predictability. Right. Because if you have people locked in through contracts, that means, okay, the business will flow and will continue to operate.
I've had deals blow up because They're going through the data room. They're going through the diligence. And all of these, all these employees, all these workers, let's call them, weren't locked up. They didn't have employment agreements. They weren't properly structured. So at any point in time, there was a perceived risk to the business that they could get up and walk away, and a certain amount of the revenue would be lost just because of that.
Absolutely.
I mean, another thing I've seen, again, how many businesses have we talked about this week alone that just didn't have any significant partnership or operating agreement?
Many.
And that isn't an issue until it is, right?
Right.
So all it takes is, I've had this happen on deals before too. You have 4 partners, and you have a private equity group come in, and you have one partner that wants not to sell, and you have 3 that do. One partner that wants to sell but thinks the valuation should be 10 times higher. Yeah. What happens? Well, if you have a partnership agreement or operating agreement that spells out what happens in the case of a sale or something, it can be a pretty organized process. If you don't,
well, if you got an agreement from a lawyer that understood what they were drafting, because if you have a Rocket lawyer,
if you buy it from LegalZoom or Rocket lawyer,
because they play their service, but it does affect you, because now you have something that is very vanilla and didn't have that kind of stuff.
So I've also had deals fall apart because, like, you seem to have some internal conflict. You don't seem to know what you're doing internally. You don't have a way of controlling that person that doesn't want to go through with the deal. We'll pass and move on to something else. Yeah. They're not looking for any sort of complications. They're not looking for any sort of stickiness or messiness on your side. If your house is not completely locked up and clean and pristine, most of these private equity groups will just move on to the next one that is.
Absolutely. Or they'll buy you at a discount. Right. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining in on these trends regarding private equity and healthcare and deals, action in the wellness space. I'm Carlos Arce. This is Adam Lusthaus. If you need to reach out to us, we're here with the Florida Healthcare Law Firm, here to help you and guide you on your legal journey. Thank you.